Anti-show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. These are the voyages of the GNT show. Our continuing mission to explore Star Trek storytelling, to seek out new worlds and interesting characters, to bowl we got where no show has gone before. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the GNT Show, episode 289. I'm Terry Lynn, and this week, Gettysburg 7 is also out, so we wanted to be able to say hello. And now across the table is our resident Klingon, Ceridium.
Kabla! Apparently he sends greetings from Camp North Star.
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And also joining us is our wonderful guest, Kojiro.
Good morning. How is everyone today?
Doing well.
Cool.
And also Steve Midnight.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you once again for joining us and making sure that we go live onto Facebook and YouTube.
At the moment, just YouTube. Facebook's freaking out again, so I'm working on it.
Well, Facebook has been buggy.
Yeah, and not just on its apps either.
Wait,
Yeah, no.
Facebook is acting weird? Color me surprised.
It's,
Are we sure it's not another experiment to check out how far users are willing to go, how much we're willing to take?
no, we're not sure.
Because they've done that before.
I know. It's very annoying. Yeah, yesterday none of the GIFs would load for me, and I say GIFs, so just deal with it. When you respond with using a graphics interface. And so those of you who are listening to us on YouTube, hello. And you are also welcome to join us in the chat room, which is actually at thegntShow.com/streaming, or you can just click on the little streaming button from the main page. So we'll start off with Coffee Clutch. And Sorry, what did you do this week?
Let's see. What did I do this week? I managed to send out my story for the longest night watch anthology to a few beta readers. I've gotten feedback from a couple of them, so I'm looking forward to integrating that. I spent a long time pondering what I want to do for the contest for the X Prize.
Yeah.
And I think I've landed on my idea, and I've actually started writing. Although the due date is coming up really soon, August 25th.
Wow.
The other story's due August 15th, so it's like, gotta make progress on both. Oh, and speaking of writing, I want to send a congratulations and a shout out to our friend Matt Hunt for his
Yay.
He published a story on Amazon yesterday. So everyone check out Solar Reboot by Matthew D. Hunt.
Congrats,
Put the link in the chat
Matt.
room.
We're so happy for you. And we'll put the link for his book in the show notes. He's a good friend, and we'll stick that in there if you're interested. It sounds to me like it's a kind of a semi-post-apocalyptic idea where a family is trying to reconnect from two different portions of the United States.
Yeah, and
although it's far more complicated than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think earth-ending event that sparks it. So it's not quite post-apocalyptic; it's apocalyptic. But he's also an independent filmmaker. So if you also want to check out some of his stuff, he's got a funny dramedy type sci-fi show, almost like a Star Trek spoof, over on Amazon called Nobility. So I checked that out yesterday as well. It was fun. So you might want to there you go. Nobility and Solar Reboot.
Very, very cool. Oh, and what about you, Kojiro?
Well, I went to some exotic locations this week. Oklahoma City. Woohoo! And also proved once again that flying from Albuquerque anywhere can be an adventure. Yeah.
You had to break
it's
the
funny.
space-time barrier, didn't you?
Oh, there's all kinds of weird and wacky things you have to do. Like, take a load of this. I wanted to fly to Oklahoma City from Albuquerque, so naturally my connector was in Phoenix, which is exactly the opposite direction from where I was going.
You gotta fly west to go east.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And as I flew the leg from Phoenix to Oklahoma City, I looked out my window and saw Albuquerque below me.
There's my house.
Yeah, hey, look, I can see your house. So that was interesting. And then to come back from Oklahoma City, which I was only there for probably less than 18 hours, I had to go back through Houston, which isn't exactly the opposite direction, but it is not the direction of Albuquerque either. It's an adventure coming out of Albuquerque. It's always a two-hopper, no matter which way you go. I mean, I swear you have to two-hop just to go to the restroom. So, it's always fun there. The lesson I learned is that I got to be a little more careful in choosing my itineraries when I'm flying out of here. This is the second time in 2 months where I've had something really weird happen in this. The other times I had to go to San Francisco was about a month and a half ago, and the trip to San Francisco was a nonstop, which was like amazing. But coming back, I had to make up for it. I had to stop in 2 places before I even got to Albuquerque. So it took me like 8 hours to get home.
He had to fly through Mexico and needed to make sure he had his visa with him.
You know what I had to do is I probably had to go the other way around the world. I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. I think I went from San Francisco to San Diego to Vegas, then Vegas to Albuquerque.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So adventures in flying. That was my week.
Steve, what about you?
I've been working. That's been about it. Even this weekend, I've spent about 20 hours doing sort of work for work. Had to cancel tribbles yesterday because just haven't had time to do it. So, and yeah, I'm only halfway through Sunday.
Wow.
And still got loads more to do.
Yeah. And it's same for me. I ended up working all week, playing golf of course, on Wednesday, as is my regular norm. Although I have to say, we were pretty lucky this week that it's been the only day where we haven't gotten some pretty significant monsoon storms. They've been rolling through, as is the norm here in the land of enchantment. Every July through August, it rains, lots of lightning every day. It's very cool. And, chilling with the dogs. And getting the house ready because we're going to STLV. So I'm very excited about that. I know. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start. We do have some, just a couple of quick announcements regarding Busy Little Beaver Productions, which is our kind of like our, I don't want to call it a parent company because it's not really a company, but it's our cover banner.
It's our network.
It's what?
It's our network.
It is our network, and from which we also have other people who post their work under our banner. So Star Trek Adventures and the Adventures of the USS T'Pau can be found on our YouTube channel, on their YouTube channel. Episode 3, Part 1.
Yep.
Is now available for watching. And Mike, what's going on at I Live, Love, Play?
Let's see. Looks like Ross and George got together for an episode of Super Geeks where they talk about the Star Trek trailer that dropped from SDCC, as well as the big announcement for if you're a Doctor Who's fan, it's a huge announcement of the new Doctor, which is the first female Doctor.
Yeah, I've and of course the good news is I would have to say, and I'm being totally honest here, more than 70% of the people who I know who watch Doctor Who and who love Doctor Who are absolutely thrilled with the announcement that the next actor or actress to portray the Doctor is a woman. There's a small, but very, as it always is, right, Mike? A small but very vocal group that is very, very upset about it, and fuck them. Pretty much, right?
Wow, that's pretty definitive, Terry. I would have just said, lighten up, Francis.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously,
What
come
is it
on.
with the Bill Murray references to movie references
I think
today?
that's the theme today is
Bill Murray,
yes.
movie references. Lighten up, Francis.
Let me pull up my list of go-to Bill Murray quotes.
That's a good idea. It just doesn't matter. Or, you know. We do have Mike, you already talked about nobility, right?
Yes,
No,
I did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
mentioned it.
we already talked about Matt Hunt's new book and nobility from I think we should just drop down to okay. What do we want to talk about first? And you know what, Steve, I'm going to let you choose. Do we want to talk about convention news or television news? Because there's a shitload.
I'd say TV news because I can't go to that convention. So
okay, that's fine. A lot of news came out over the past week, plus
some of it controversial.
Some of it controversial, as always, right? Because it's Star Trek. That we're
it's
actually
like the middle name. It's like its middle name. It's actually Star Controversial Trek.
Well, we
seems
didn't
that
really
way sometimes.
I know we didn't really get to talk about a lot of this because a lot of this came out after last week's show, right?
Or within a couple hours of it or something.
Yeah, because it was all at San Diego Comic-Con.
Comic-Con? What's that?
Because that ended on Sunday, and wasn't the Star Trek panel on Sunday?
It was, I believe, on Saturday, but a lot of the news didn't get out there fully until the day after. People were still processing and working out posts and all that fun stuff.
They were all sitting in corners with their eye twitching, going
okay.
Rocking back and forth,
going to their happy place, trying to make sense of the world.
Oh, I'm so excited. Well, the trailers that we have seen come out have been beautiful. We did get to talk about the trailers.
I don't want to be that guy mumbling into his drink at the bar, Bill Murray said.
Okay, then.
Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
Just keep looking. Look side mirror. Yeah.
All right. Sorry for that. Derailing your.
It's all right. It's all right. Well, we've always known this. I mean, we have known this since the first news came out about Star Trek Discovery, and we started to get news about any of the characters. And that was, of course, Star Trek Discovery would actually have as a regular character or characters, openly gay characters, and that these two characters are actually in a relationship within the context of the show. but they got to go into a little bit more about the actors and the not a whole lot. We're still not getting a whole lot of stuff, guys. Trust me, there's no spoilers here. And I'm just going to bring it right up the bat. It's something I talked to Alan about yesterday.
Yes.
And that is the one thing I have found about, or at least so far, with regards to the Star Trek Discovery actors, is how freaking amazing and absolutely interactive they are with the fandom on Twitter.
Yeah, they seem to be a little bit more savvy about this sort of thing. But then again, this is the first series that's really premiering during the height of social media. Let's face it, the last series, premiered in the early 2000s, where it wasn't, social media wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So I think you do have a more savvy, the actors are more savvy about how Twitter and Facebook and everything works for them as promotion.
Well, that it absolutely shows in that, well, Doug Jones, who plays the new kind of alien, the overtly alien character on the show, he's interacting with a lot of people. Absolutely reads the tweets about the hashtag Star Trek Discovery. So does Mary Chieffo, who plays a female Klingon. And here, hold on. I'm sorry. It's just my Twitter is pissing me off. So hang on.
What? Twitter pissing us off? Color me surprised.
And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do agree with what you guys were saying, that this is the first Star Trek show fully immersed in the social media generation. But I also think that the people who are leading the charge, who are Sonequa Martin Green, for instance, she's the cap. Well, no, she's not the captain, but she's the lead. So she's the one that's everyone's like taking their cues from, and because of her experience in other shows such as Walking Dead, which also has a huge fandom and a convention experience, so she kind of cut her teeth on that. So she already knows what to expect from the whole idea of fandom. So I think the whole cast is getting some of their cues and experience from her, although a lot of them are experienced with the genre already. But I think it's because of their experiences with the fandom that it's also making them have so much more fun together and interacting with the fans, because they've already dealt with it. They already know what it's about, and they know how to take advantage of it. And so yeah, social media is important, but there's a lot more to fandom nowadays than just social media. And they're taking full advantage of it. They're using it to their benefit.
Absolutely. Anthony Rapp, and it's funny is that I can understand Robert. Robert Reyes in the chat room just says he goes, his thing is that he really doesn't know who any of these actors are, and are they any good? And the fact is for the most part, did you know any of the actors that were cast in any of the previous Star Trek shows?
And the fact it wouldn't have even been an issue in the previous ones, because they wouldn't have been out there. A new show gets advertised, people sit in front of the TV. This day and age, it's completely changed. You know who is cast well beforehand. So it wouldn't have even been a thought in people's mind back in the day.
Well, now you also, because they were announced so early, people have an opportunity, whether or not they took advantage of it or not, an opportunity to check out the cast's previous work. So you can actually get a feel for who they are as an actor or actress before you actually see them in the role. So that's another advantage, quote unquote, of having
Yep.
the internet and social media.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times that we're in right now.
Yeah.
We just have more access to things, as it is with everything. And so, being able to do a little research on people. It's kind of funny, though, that a new series comes out and we feel like we have to research it before we can do anything, before we can just watch it and enjoy it. No, we have to know everything to the nth degree. We have to know everything before it's revealed to us.
Yep, it's true. But for those of you who want to know, pick up one of the actors' names, like Anthony Rapp, who I was just going to discuss. Anthony has been exceptionally interactive on Twitter with regards to Star Trek Discovery. He has been jumping into conversations about Star Trek, what he believes Star Trek, and he sounds like he's going through a first-time watch of DS9, where he has seen the previous incarnations of Star Trek like TOS and TNG. It sounded to me like he really doesn't have a whole lot of experience watching DS9. So he's kind of sharing his experiences watching DS9 with the Twitter followers, which has been an absolute blast, because this week he actually watched Duet and he was, of course, mind blown. And he was just like, holy crap, that was so good. Anthony Rapp is an exceptional performer. He started his career in 1980s and doing Adventures in Babysitting. He was Daryl in that, but he was also in Rent on Broadway and played, I do believe, the lead in that. And he has an extraordinary stage background, as well as television and films. So while you may not know him, if you haven't watched particular things, he was in Dazed and Confused. He was in The X-Files, if anybody had ever seen that. He was a guest on The X-Files. But he was also in A Beautiful Mind and Winter Passing. But lots and lots of just, God, I'm looking at his IMDb page right now, and it's just really amazing. It's like, fuck, this guy's so good. And that's the thing, is that they are exceptional actors outside of television as well. When you're dealing with somebody who's got, the stage experience too, like Sir Patrick did when he first got cracked at or pegged for Picard. Nobody knew who he was, except for those who were followers of Royal Shake, right, Alan?
Well, he had obviously a resume of performances before that, but he never had anything that was really a breakout performance as far as movies or anything like that. And I don't think he did any television prior to Star Trek. It was kind of interesting because I had a unique interaction with Patrick Stewart. I actually met him about a year before TNG premiered. I was at the time going to school at Long Beach State, and he was actually brought in as a guest professor for a week. And so it was interesting because the same thing, it's like people didn't know who he was, but those of us in theater were like, oh, well, here's a few connections. And then it all made sense. But as far as what people in the public, the general public, I think he was a bit of an unknown when he first showed up.
Exactly. And nobody really, at least Americans, I mean, I'm sure that the Brits knew, just like we would know who Lin-Manuel is, of course, now, because of the, the pomp and circumstance you get when you're a famous stage performer. But right. It is it is very interesting. So and Sonequa Martin Green, I don't think any of us really second guess her acting ability. Jesus Christ, the woman is freaking amazing.
Yes, she is awesome.
And I think that and even Rainn Wilson, if you guys have ever seen him in anything semi-dramatic,
hilarious. Well, I've seen him his comedy work, and he's hilarious. But I can definitely see him pulling off serious roles as well. I don't think I've ever seen him in a serious role, but that's just me. Maybe I have. I don't know.
Well, as they always say, acting's easy, comedy is hard. So if you get, it's amazing how often you'll see a comedic actor who that's what they're famous for. It always seems to surprise people when they get into something that's a little bit different, that's not necessarily so comedic, that people are amazed about it. But that's the truth. I mean, comedy is difficult, and if you're a master of that in any way, um, coming back to these other more dramatic roles can be I don't want to say easy because it's not easy, but um, it's a different way of doing it. But if you can master comedy, you're generally a master of other things too. But the thing about it though is Rainn Wilson's going to be playing what, Harry Mudd, right?
Harry Mudd, right?
I would hope that it's not completely dramatic because it's kind of funny when I watched the trailer. It's a very dramatic scene where he introduces himself. I just hope that they keep some of the comedy of it because let's face it, as a villain, he was not menacingly evil. He was comedically evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny is he had been approached by some fans and some other people, and of course the media asking him about that, and that is, Harry Mudd is kind of like this comedic character, and he kind of laughed and he kind of went, you know what? He's mischievous and dangerous.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and he does come across that way in that little snippet that we saw of him in the trailer. I mean, you're a madman. I'm Mudd.
Exactly.
Mudd only ever came across as a creep when I watched TOS. Nothing more.
And he was it's exactly what he was supposed to be, was this a huckster, a creep, somebody always trying to scam, and not necessarily very well. Be that as it may, I would like to think that he was probably better at it when he was younger.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that, and we're seeing him in his prime, so to speak.
And I would love to see him exactly. I would like to see that character be a bit more dangerous, a bit more competent at his hucksterism than he was by the time that he got to TOS, because I feel like at TOS he was a guy already on the downslide.
Well, the difference is that he's not a villain in the sense of killing things and people and stuff. He's
out for a buck.
He's a con man. That's what it is. And like in the one episode where they list through his list of crimes, it's all about scams and cons and everything like that. He's not a killer. He's out for a buck.
Exactly. He is the impetus of many Ferengi. Not all,
I don't think he's above putting someone in danger though.
True, but he's not going to pull the trigger either.
But yeah, he's not going to be the one that pulls the trigger, but he's going to make sure that you're like that your path is going to cross in front of the bus at the right time.
There you go. That's
exactly. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing something a little bit edgier about Mudd, especially if it means that I get to see him as kind of that criminal element, that mischievous criminal element that gave rise to the more buffoonish that we saw in TOS.
Well, I agree. I think he should be a little bit edgier because if he's too much of a buffoon, then even as a villain, you can't take him seriously. There still has to be an edge of danger. So, it's going to be a fine line. It'll be interesting to see how they do it.
And then he meets Stella, and it all goes downhill from there.
Shut up, Stella.
And speaking of Stella and Twitter, again, don't forget to follow Stella Star Trek Dog. Stella Star Trek Dog is presumably Nicholas Meyer's Twitter account, because Stella is actually his dog, and reports from the writer's room at Star Trek Discovery. So it's been pretty fun to follow, and also a very active or interactive account. So if you have questions, sometimes they get answered on Twitter. So don't forget, follow the actors, follow the writers Oh my gosh, follow the Star Trek Writers Room. They have their own Twitter account, you guys, and they've been really, really fun and interactive with the fandom. They don't respond to trolls, so don't expect that if you try to troll them or bitch and moan that you're going to get a response, because they're smarter than that. One of the other things that came out this week was
that one that I just put in the chat room, please.
Oh, what?
Okay, so
yes, yeah, I was just to get to that.
Okay,
so
okay,
go
good.
for it.
So EW, they had actually talked with Brian Fuller, and he kind of reveals, some information about why he left, but he also talks about, some of his ideas and the original pitch that he had for Trek, which included the idea of an anthology, right?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And I had seen a theory somewhere on the interwebs somewhere, but now we know that Nicholas Meyer is working on a new Star Trek project. Could this be phase 2 of the anthology?
Well, no, because what I understood from a follow-up article that came out the other day about the reasons why the relationship between CBS and Brian Fuller broke down were because of this creative and budgetary, as it always is, right? You bring in somebody who's ultimately creative and they want this big world, and it costs a lot of money. And while there is more money to be had in this budget, Fuller, his minds of course they just didn't sync up. And one of those things was this idea of an anthology, that each 13 or 15 episodes would be a self-contained story, and that they would do something different, completely different, in the following year. It's my understanding that was one of the real reasons why they said, no, we're not doing that. It's too expensive to create a whole new, for 15 episodes to go and create all new sets and all new costumes and all new everything. That's a huge financial undertaking.
And the idea was the first one would be pre-TOS, then there would be something around TNG era, and then they would jump forward to something totally new that we've never seen before. So that is certainly a concern. But the what I had seen, and I wish I had saved the link, but
I think I got it right here. I'll put it in.
It had speculated that, or had suggested that, although they decided not to go with an anthology series, a la American Horror Story or whatever. But rather more along the lines of the Marvel Netflix model, where concurrent series, so different shows dealing with different aspects of the Trek universe.
Right.
So that could be the project that Myers may be working on, is a second. Again, this is just speculation, but wouldn't it be awesome though if there's potentially going to be 2 series of Trek running concurrently?
Well, that also runs a very fine line where a lot of people are, a lot of people were saying that the reason why Star Trek went through a down cycle was because it was oversaturated, right?
I call bullshit on that, but okay, that's the excuse that people use.
Yeah, I call bullshit on it too, because Star Wars is just fine.
I would say the same thing, but then I will easily get through about 15 episodes in a day. So I just say.
I as we've said before, I think our biggest issue with some of the Trek from Voyager, Enterprise, was the writing was the writers' room was getting tired, and when they brought in Manny Koto at the end of Enterprise, that breathed a lot of new life into that.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if they had done that a lot sooner, you know, brought in some fresh, well rested storytellers, I don't think the franchise would have gotten tired as quickly. People would not have gotten tired with the series, with the franchise as quickly as they had. It was just because they were, I mean, Voyager, it seemed like they were telling first season stories again in like the 6th and 7th season. It was like there was a lot of that deja vu feeling for me.
Well, you know, Terry and I actually were discussing this yesterday, and we were talking about what our favorite series are and everything like that. And what I kind of appreciated about the way Star Trek was going, uh, you know, over the last two series of Voyager and Enterprise, we talked about, was also the structure of how the storytelling was going. You brought up the point about Manny Koto coming in the 4th season of Enterprise. To me, the storytelling in Enterprise really started to take a new tack when they started doing these 3 or 4 episode story arcs. And so what they were doing was, instead of being completely episodic, they started doing these longer stories that almost become
a little
cinematic.
more serialized, yeah, and very cinematic, and yeah.
It was almost like a movie now, because they could tell a story over 3 or 4 weeks, and have that time to do it. And I really started to like it, because I think they did that about 4 or 5 times in the last season of these longer story arcs. And wouldn't it have been great to have gone on and seen more of those kinds of stories, so that we weren't like caught in this, oh, we have to have the monster of the week, and we don't have to have the you know, everything tied up in a neat knot every week, but not the same as they did in the 3rd season, where the Xindi arc lasted for 26 episodes. You know,
see that's kind of, they were experimenting with the show, obviously trying to see what, and the Xindi arc was in some ways was also ahead of its time, in terms of although it was starting to happen a little bit more often. They were trying to tell, you know, longer stories, but still in an episodic manner, you know.
Sure.
And then,
but then
with the 4th season, it was like that worked, but it didn't work as well as it should have. But with the 4th season, they decided, let's do something similar. Let's concentrate the stories. Let's, you know, tell bigger, more complex stories. But let's start moving away from the episodic nature, you know. Because
exactly,
if you watch the beginning of season 4 of Enterprise, and at the end, you can see that these characters were evolving. I mean, you saw the evolution of these characters in season 3 as well. It wasn't just an episodic type of show anymore.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, and to take the point to another to what I was I'm tongue tied now.
I didn't mean
to what else. What I was going to say is the thing I actually appreciated about Voyager was it did go episodic, and the thing about it is that, okay, Voyager had a built-in long-term story arc. We got to get home. You know, it's that whole thing, but that's not sustainable. You know, that gets boring very quick. And so it seemed like what they started to do was, we're going to be more compartmentalized in our episodes. And so we ended up with completely self-contained stories. Sometimes they were very high concept, you know,
which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a high
concept episode is not bad.
No, not at all. And what it did was, it actually reminded me a lot more of TOS than anything else, than any other series, because you know, TNG again was very episodic, but they had they kind of got away from exploring and got into so much more about the politics. And of course, DS9 became driven by the Dominion War, and became quite a commentary on war in general. Voyager started doing these episodes where it was like some sci-fi thing that we could just concentrate on that, and I liked it. I mean, I like Voyager, and I like it because of that episodic nature. I know that some people get a little hung up on, batshit crazy Janeway this week, and next week she's the best captain ever. Yeah, there was some inconsistency in the writing because of that, but I think each episode unto itself worked. It's just that when you keep trying to put it into the bigger concept, that sometimes it fails, and of course that's hard to do with it's hard to do with a series because you do want that continuity. But take individual episodes of Voyager, and each one of them generally stands on its own very well.
Right, the Fear Clown episode.
Yeah, that's
high concept.
Very high concept.
Absolutely nothing to do with them actually trying to get home.
Right.
But if it had been in TOS, it would have fit right in.
Yeah, I thought of another one too, which was where they go to the planet that has the sped up timeline, and they're trapped in orbit, and they actually become part of their culture because they're the ship that's in the sky all the time. Very high concept episode, very interesting. Again, not part of the bigger story arc, but it was still something we got to explore, and it was in the Star Trek construct, So that's what I like about Voyager. And again, made it different than Enterprise, which had its different way. And I think that's what's I like about the different series. It's not that they're all so integrated into the same universe. It's how they take that universe and expand it in their own way.
Yeah,
it's true.
Discovery is going to do more of that. I mean, it's going to contribute to the universe, but in new and different ways that we haven't seen before.
Agreed.
Right.
Totally agreed.
And sorry to interrupt, Terry.
No, you're not. Not Michael. Interrupt, would you? We want to hear what you have to say.
But I want to sleep.
Well, the big news, of course, came out this week, and let me tell you, Entertainment Weekly has pretty much what is a Star Trek focused
monopoly.
Yeah, a Star Trek focused publication right now. Lots of interviews, lots of cover. And one of those things that came out was, I want to look here real quick before I step on my own tongue. Oh yeah, the photos. Oh my God, the photos. The photos are amazing. Lots of photographs of the crew and the cast that they got to take. And what was really, really cool is something that we also got to see from the films and the videos that were taken at San Diego Comic-Con. And that is a group of people who really seem to like each other. And that's hard to fake, you guys. It just is. It's hard to fake. So when you see a group of people who are in a room that look like they're actually having the time of their lives with one another, you can
it's
look
probably because they are.
That's exactly right. This is a group of people who really do look like they're having just a very, very fun time being around each other, being creative with one another, and being able to share an exceptional experience. And not the least of which is even down to Jason Isaacs. Jason Isaacs was one of those guys that let's face it, he kind of is dealing with that almost typecasted thing where he's kind of the, that rat bastard. So it's hard to differentiate the actor from the part. And he just looks like he's having the time of his life.
I don't think he's typecast as a rat bastard. Obviously he has a high profile from the Harry Potter movies playing, Lucius, but I've seen him in lots of other things, and he's played, like a leading man part, or he's played very sympathetic characters or quote unquote nice people. So I think we're just kind of colored by the Harry Potter series right now.
Well, Jason Isaacs, there's a link called entitled Jason Isaacs sums up his Star Trek Discovery captain in 3 little words. It's from CBS.com.
Yeah.
And in those 3 words are pretty much he's a rat bastard.
Oh, really?
I think, doesn't he say, yeah, he does. I think he says
not a
he's
very
fucked
nice
up.
guy. He's not. Yeah, something along those lines. He's not a nice guy, or something like that. And it's like, oh crap.
Yeah, I think he said that Captain Lorca is pretty fucked up.
Something, yeah, it's something to that effect. Where yeah, you kind of get the feeling that he's not the good guy.
But that's okay. again, when you're dealing with a character that's really that serious and really that messed up, or has his quote unquote issues, but when you see him interacting with and looking like he was just having so much fun at San Diego Comic-Con, and during the photo, and the press thing with Entertainment Weekly, and this is a big deal, and and he knows it, and it looks like he's absolutely committed to having the best time possible while it lasts. And that seems the same for everybody, you guys. I mean, I'm just really taken by how, and you know why? Because again, and I'll say it, because that's when it starts to show in the final product. If you've got a cast that gels, it's gonna show. It's gonna show, because that's the way actors feed off that energy, right, Alan?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, if you can build a good camaraderie within a cast, that's when the trust starts, and when the trust starts, then you can do things with your characters, and people will come along for the ride. Other actors will, as long as they trust each other, and it takes some time to build that trust. It looks like they made that effort.
It's true. All right. So, but again, a lot of news coming out. Just a lot of press junket stuff is starting to come out now, because we are less than 2 months away from the premiere of the show, and we're going to start seeing a lot more.
Now.
I know. Lots of really cool stuff. Again, a lot of photos came out from San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of photos are in Entertainment Weekly, and a lot of photos and other documents or follow-ups, especially these nice inside discovery pieces that they have on the individual actors over at StarTrek.com. So head over to StarTrek.com and do a little bit of reading and check it out. And have fun with it, you guys. Just, once again, Bill Murray's movies, although it wasn't his line, but it was his movie. It was lighten up, Francis. Have fun.
I make it a rule never to get involved with possessed people. Actually, it's more of a guideline than a rule.
Very well done. Yeah. And there's also a really great article. Let me pull that up from over at Women at Warp.
I think I've got the link there.
I have to be very careful opening links, because my control button is also my mic button.
Why calls for subtlety in Star Trek are misguided.
Yeah. And I have to say I agree. There's a lot of people, again, a vocal minority, who are, of course, upset about, go figure, people, women of color, or people of color, or even of different sexuality or sexual preference being part of the new show. And while most of us and most of our listeners do not feel this way, there's a lot of that whole I can't even say it. I can't even imagine that there's a Star Trek fan out there who really just feels that way, who doesn't want those things, quote unquote, pushed in their face. And they want Star Trek to do it more subtly, and that they were tired, and that they don't like it when they're hit over the head with morality, right? Well, guess what Star Trek does?
It's always done it.
It hits you over the head with morality, guys.
Well, you know what you just got to tell them? Go watch Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, that kind of hits you. Well, they don't really have... Do they even have morality in that? I mean, they do for a little bit. But I have a feeling that's going to change in the next movie, so we'll see. I think... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when Gene Roddenberry first created Star Trek, it was going to be morality plays every week. That was the idea. Every week was going to be something that was going to comment on, some aspect maybe of current social, whatever's happening socially at that point, but putting it into an allegorical of Star Trek.
Right.
So that they could present something that maybe people would feel uncomfortable about, was a more realistic drama, So that was always kind of the original intent. It's just that it's evolved onto this bigger universe now that we have. So, if you don't like the morality play part of it, well, whatever,
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, but you were making an analogy to Star Wars, and Star Wars in its original was really just more of another presentation of the hero arc, of
Right.
classic mythology. So
Right.
again, these are stories that were started in one aspect and was using the filter of science fiction to tell these similar
Exactly.
stories.
And what's funny is that although, I personally don't see the first the Star Wars movie as an overt Campbell-like hero, the hero arc.
Right. Right.
I see that his influence and that influence comes in the every other movie since. I just don't think that it was an overt idea at the time with the first movie. It just played well into it.
I think they weren't trying to say, okay, now we're going to retell. I think what they did was they said these are elements that are classic to storytelling, and we're going to put these elements in. Because you're right. In the first one, they didn't have. Well, they didn't know if they were going to be making a second movie or a third or on up to whatever number they're up to now. He just wanted to tell a fun space romp, but to make it more interesting, he used the idea of these storytelling elements. I think to make it, I think to differentiate it, because up until then, science fiction was always so heavy. Oh, it's so deep and everything like that. It was 2001 and all those other kinds of things, and I think George Lucas wanted to tell a more fun story, but using that science fiction filter again.
Let's put it this way. I mean, really. We all know, or we all think about it, what Star Wars really was kind of a nod to not just the black and white hat westerns, but also to Kurosawa, right? Because wasn't it?
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true too. Because I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I think I know where you're going. That the actual first movie, Star Wars, now Episode 4, but it was originally Star Wars, was kind of a retelling of a Kurosawa movie, which is, I think, was it the Hidden Fortress or something like that?
The Searchers was John Wayne's version of it.
Yeah.
But that.
Right. It was a retelling of that story. So but again, using those same elements of storytelling.
Right.
So.
Anyway. And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you weren't. No, stop it. You guys aren't interrupting. This is a great conversation. When it comes to, that retelling of the story, and which is why I love this article from Women at Warp so very much, is because it is a good reminder to say that's not what Star Trek is. It's not what Star Trek ever was in any of its incarnations, ever. Not even Enterprise. The storytelling is overt. It's in your face. It's meant to directly challenge you and the way that you think. You're not going to love it all the time, right? How many times have I even said, "Oh my God, Archer!" It's supposed to challenge you directly and in your face, and it's supposed to get you angry or sad or and angry twice over.
Well, and that brings up a good point, because like you said, you got angry at Archer, and sometimes we get mad at Janeway for her little weird things. But to tell the story, we need certain elements there to get there. So again, we're telling stories in the compartmentalized way, instead of saying, oh, how do I fit this into the bigger universe?
Exactly. I mean, Mike, what was it about? What was again, if we look back on each one of us, what was the first episode of Star Trek you ever remember watching?
The first episode that I ever remember watching was The Man Trap.
That's so cool.
The salt vampire scared the shit out of me, but I loved her. because here was this monster, and she was a monster, but she wasn't a monster. She was
just trying to
person,
survive,
just
right?
trying to survive, trying to get by in the world. And so here I am, a little Portuguese Mike, not understanding what the hell's going on because I'm learning English by watching Star Trek.
That's so cool.
But
Steve,
but
sorry.
it was
no.
seeing
And Steve,
this
what was
monster
yours?
that wasn't a monster.
Yeah, Steve.
I remember it as a Next Generation episode, but can't remember which one. My brothers used to watch
Please
TOS.
say it wasn't Code of Honor.
I honestly can't remember. So I used to sort of, as they were watching it, there's TOS, TNG, and some DS9, which used to repeat on BBC Two. So I used to come in, sometimes watch bits of it, but I never really started watching Trek until the sort of 97, I think, when I actually got into Voyager. That's what really got me into Star Trek, because I sort of could relate to that. And even then, I can't remember which was the first episode that I saw. I remember it was a season 3 episode, but which one I can't actually remember.
I don't know if Man Trap is the first episode I saw, but it's the first one that I remember.
That's what I'm asking.
Made an impression on you.
Yeah, that's the one that made the impression on me.
And what about you, Alan?
Well, I'm going to really age myself here. The first Star Trek I watched was in 1966.
Yeah.
As a small child, my brother watched the show, and of course, I was sitting there. I didn't comprehend any of it. Didn't make any sense. It was just kind of fun, pew pew, shoot 'em up kind of things, But the first one that made an impression on me, as far as I remember back, I think was Balance of Terror from TOS, which is basically the submarine episode, for lack of a better one. But it's the one with Mark Leonard as the Romulan commander and the cat and mouse play of the ships.
Such a great, a great one.
So that's one of the first ones I actually remember as being something. But I watched from the beginning.
Yeah, well, you weren't the only one. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The first one I actually remember watching was a first run episode. I was about 4, and I was sitting on my uncle's lap, and it was Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, which is to this day still probably one of the most in-your-face, overt.
It doesn't get much more in your face.
It doesn't get much more overt than that morality play. And but it's still to this day one of those that, absolutely spoke very hard and challenged that, a 4-year-old's imagination, really.
Right. Hey, as a little sidebar too, for all the people who do get kind of bothered by how inconsistent maybe the captains are in later series, I challenge you to go back and binge watch TOS and see how different Kirk is from episode to episode. Because seriously,
he's fuck nuts.
Sometimes he swings as wildly as Janeway does, and I think people don't remember just how sometimes he goes off the rails too.
Which is why when people turn around and say that the Kelvin timeline is not Star Trek, it wasn't till I completely rewatched all of TOS, because there are lots of episodes that I hadn't watched, that I suddenly realised how much closer to TOS the JJ Star Trek was compared to what I think most people compared to like TNG, DS9, who were turning around saying, yeah, that's not Star Trek. And I could see a lot of where they probably took stuff from, because of course it was also the Kirk era as well.
Right.
It's a very good point. No, but you're right, Alan. I mean, a Private Little War. Come on.
Oh yeah, I mean, watch how
that is.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, watch how often Kirk breaks the Prime Directive and just overtly does it. Without shame or anything. He justifies it. Sure, he's like, well, blah blah blah, but he does things that later captains wouldn't even think of.
Yeah, except for Janeway, who reverts to being. Janeway is, in my opinion, the most Kirk of them all.
I agree there.
She really is, and it doesn't bother me. She's written crazy from time to time. What was the episode we just watched the other day, Ellen?
Which one?
Oh, it was Unimatrix.
Oh yeah, we're watching Unimatrix, right?
And she, even though from time to time she really doesn't give a shit about what Chakotay thinks, all of a sudden she does. And you and I looked at each other and went, well, okay.
What made this one different,
Well, the thing is, I know you guys have always said that, but I've never got that when I've watched Voyager at all. And the thing is, yes, people from episode to episode can change, and the thing is, it depends on what's been happening, because we don't see all that stuff that goes on, which would like, sometimes you could think something one way, and then because something else happened to you within a week, what you then do would be completely different. It's a bit like when they're next to going against the Krenim. What happens at the end is just because of the way that the person announced themselves, things changed. They went around and things like that. So sometimes they could talk, sometimes they won't, but we just didn't get to see that on screen.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, again, we always feel like what's happening what's happening on the screen is all that's ever happening. No, there's a whole. If we accept that there's a whole universe happening here, then there's a whole universe of things that happen that can affect from week to week that we don't ever see.
And the thing is with Voyager especially, is of course they are on their own. It's not like they have backup and things like that. So of course, when it comes to like the Prime Directive, someone says, no, you're not coming through my territory. Well, if they've got a small ship, no backup of their own, and they're just like, well, we're not going to add 10 years to our trip just to go around what you say is your area. I can understand why Janeway went, yeah, I'm going through there regardless. Just like, you don't pose any threat to us, we're not going to be a threat to you just because you don't trust us because we're alien to this sector. I can understand why she did that.
Right.
Oh, I can understand why. I just don't think that for all of the huff and puff that she had at the very beginning, which is, it doesn't matter, Starfleet rules are still going to apply to us. And then she's the first one who just kind of throws them out the window.
Yeah, but as she said in Equinox, she didn't break them. She sort of bent them to the max extreme. It's all sort of thing.
It's funny you bring up Equinox. Yeah. I was just about to bring it up. You know what? When it comes to those kinds of choices, well, yeah, maybe I do agree with her. But it's interesting, when they wrote it, she became a little bit obsessed with going after Captain Ransom. I mean, almost to a Captain Ahab kind of obsession. And I thought she made some questionable choices there that were even outside of her character. And I was thinking of specifically the one where they interrogate the Equinox crewmen that they've incarcerated, and they have them in the not the holding cell, but the cargo bay, and she's basically going to open up a portal so that the enemy or the alien can come in and attack him to scare him into talking. And that seemed a very extreme thing, even to me. I mean, Chakotay is like, what the hell are you doing? And I think everybody in the audience probably thought the same thing too, because that seemed like it went a little too far in the writing.
Well, and I think that's where the writers missed the boat with that one. I mean, I understood what the writers wanted to do. The writers wanted to take Janeway and put her into the same position that Ransom already was. They wanted to show how easy it was for Captain to fall off that edge and do what Ransom did. And that's what they were doing with her, which was, it's, if it can happen to Ransom, it can happen to anybody. Look, it's happening to Janeway. The problem is I don't think it played very well. I don't.
Yeah, see, I didn't get that feel from it. What I got was,
well, at the very end when she, you and I talked about that. At the very end when she gives that look like, holy crap, what have I done?
Well, that's true, because there's a great little moment that's actually set up in the first half of that two-parter, which is they're walking around the Equinox with Ransom, and they find the ship plate, the dedication plate on the ground, and they put it, he says something about it, and she says, well, let's put it back where it belongs. Then we have that same scene almost at the very end where we see a beat up Voyager, and her and Chakotay are walking on the bridge, and they find the Voyager plate on the ground. And he delivers the exact same line. Let's put it back where it belongs. And then they have a moment where they just go to her face, and she has that realization. So from there, it worked, because now we saw the full circle of her making the realization that, oh my God, I almost went down that slippery slope.
Exactly. And the problem is that it was the process of getting there that became so unbelievable, or it was a very hard push in that direction. So yes,
could it be argued that the reason why she kind of went after Ransom so hard was because she kind of felt guilty for the how close she did come to bending and breaking those rules, and here's someone who blatantly disregarded them. So in a way, couldn't she have been kind of trying to reel herself back in, trying to almost make amends for the little wrongs that she did? And obviously she did take it too far, but could that have been part of her motivation?
I think that yes, without a doubt. I think that you're correct in that way. The problem I had was the writing kind of missed a nuance that needed to be placed in there, and that was, what if there was what they did not play up, not just for Janeway, but for the rest of the Voyager crew, was a sense of duty that they had as Starfleet officers and Starfleet crewmen to be able to stop a rogue faction of their own, right? That they had an actual duty to stop somebody from their own kind doing something so heinous. If they had played that up a little bit more and shown that it wasn't just Janeway, but the whole crew itself going, we entirely have to stop them because they are also our representatives in this district, and if they fuck this up, they're going to fuck us up. I would have bought that much more than just a rogue captain.
Is what they should have done is the whole Equinox thing should have been an arc over a series, because they could have explored all that. Because especially with the Voyager crew, they'd got the Marquis, so their sense of right and wrong would be very different for a lot of them compared to true Starfleet personnel. Yeah. So there would have been more inner conflict there. So, as with a lot of things back in that sort of decade, things were moving towards sort of bigger arcs, and it was only really Deep Space Nine that got to do that because they're sort of left alone. But with the way that stories were told back then, they never really got the chance to do that, which is what excites me about what they can do with Discovery, because they now have the opportunity to do that. They're not so restricted.
I agree.
I agree. Voyager, I think Voyager in general could have been done so much better if they kind of did take if they decided to remake Voyager today with the way storytelling is set up. It would be, I think, a lot more successful, because you would be able to have these episodes like the Equinox and the Year of Hell. Those episodes, they could explore them a lot better. Yeah. Really stretch them out and get into the nitty gritty of what they were trying to do and didn't quite pull off because of the format they were trying to stick to. Voyager had a lot of great stories. They just fell flat because they had to compress them into an hour or two.
Yep, it's true. And there was a very distinct effort to keep things very, very episodic for Voyager, because then both Braga and Berman believed that that's what was far more, and I hate to say it, Roddenberry-like. That's what they thought Gene would have wanted, was these short morality plays that just, had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and usually within 2 episodes at the most. And only as a cliffhanger over 2. And you know what? Let's face it, I think Best of Both Worlds even occurred after Roddenberry died.
I think it did.
Yeah, so even Gene wouldn't have...
Or at least after he left, the overseeing TNG.
Right. Well, exactly. And so it allowed that all of a sudden he was gone, and now all of a sudden you had the ability to even do a 2-parter, which they never really had done before. So, and it became probably one of the most, one of the most referred to cliffhangers in television history, not just Star Trek history.
I don't even consider that a 2-parter. It's a 3-parter. I always include family.
With family, I know. It's great.
I mean, that is the postscript on it.
I think you're right. Well, let's move on a little bit. I wanted to, a bunch of people in the chat room were actually talking about this earlier. We're going to move on to unofficial productions. And
I scared them off with my Bill Murray quotes.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. There is, for those of our listeners who do not know, Geek and Sundry has this fantastic show that I watch, and I talk about it all the time. And everybody knows that I'm just like a big geek. And that is a Dungeons and Dragons show called Critical Role. I've been watching Crit Role now I've been subbing at Geek and Sundry just to watch Crit Role now for just over a year. And I'm absolutely addicted to the show. I love it. And I love it because I see this show as a bunch of really talented actors as being able to improv some fantastic characters, and instead of having an audience yell out ideas for them to use as cues, their dice do the cueing for them. Another show has shown up that uses this RPG game that has come out from Odysseus called Star Trek Adventures. Mike and I currently play in Star Trek Adventures. We have our own game that we play on Roll20 with Kushmanzada as our game master, and Mario Rodriguez from Trek Radio and others. And we have a great time playing this game. We also it also gets recorded and placed on YouTube. However, Geek and Sundry has what I would say a more well-funded, budgeted version of this called Shield of Tomorrow. If you have not seen this show and you love great Star Trek storytelling, do yourself a favor and watch it. You can watch it live on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. I think you have to sub to watch it live. If not, you can watch the video on demand the next day.
I think it's the other way around. I think you have to sub to get the replay.
Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure which one it is. Either way, you can watch it live on their Twitch channel. The video on demand gets posted the next day. They also
it gets posted on Friday. They rebroadcast on Friday, and then they record that and make that available for everyone to rewatch later.
Right. Okay.
So,
and that's like
weird.
A couple of days later. That's right. It usually doesn't get posted till like Sunday or Monday. The video on demand. It takes a few days for the video on demand to pop up. At geekandsundry.com. Be that as it may, do yourself a favor, watch the show. It's very fun. The actors are really great. That's the one thing I really like about the taped and more professional RPG games, is because these are actors who are really getting a great exercise in character development. It's really fun. Oh, it is. It's sub for replay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So it is getting great reviews. I have no doubt that just do yourself a favor. It's a set on TNG era, and it's
year 3 of DS9 is their time frame.
Okay, and their name of their ship is the USS Sally Ride. Check it out. Also, they have a just this week, as a matter of fact, which is actually really cool. I found out through watching Critical Role that Shield of Tomorrow now has a cross marketing relationship with Star Trek Online.
Yep.
It's a fantastic effort for both of them, getting the players to watch Shield of Tomorrow and getting Geek and Sundry listeners and watchers to play Star Trek Online. And I did not find this out by watching Shield of Tomorrow. I found it out by watching Critical Role. I was watching Critical Role and I was looking in the chat room, and the moderator of the chat room was putting a link to Star Trek Online in the chat room saying, watch Shield of Tomorrow. They have a great contest. I think it's a contest with Star Trek Online.
Yeah, it was during the break of Shield, of this episode of Shield of Tomorrow, and basically they gave away a Stowe Temporal Agent starter pack or something. And
very cool.
They're planning on having an offline, because that one was for people who were listening live.
Right.
They were planning on doing another one for another giveaway for people who watch it, for online, rather than people who watch it live. So not sure when or how yet, but keep an eye out. It'll be coming up soon, I'm sure.
It's very, very cool. Again, and if you do want to play Star Trek Adventures, you can head over to modifius.com and order. They do have the Game Master. The books are out. The books are already done. You can also order the board cube and a couple of other things where you can get the Star Trek miniatures if you want to use those, plus game board, plus dice, plus all sorts of really cool gadgets that you can have. But if you just want to start your own game, you can just download the adventure guide now. It's available on PDF, and the hardback's out, right, Mike?
I believe that's coming out in September.
Is that the one that's coming out in September?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's the hard
I just
copy.
know I have the PDF already. So
yeah. That's if you pre-ordered at least the hardcover book.
Okay.
Then you get access to the PDF. But yeah, I believe it's September, because yesterday I saw that Scott Pearson, and I think Jim Johnson, who both worked on the book, they were showing off their copies, I believe. There was also, I think, a video as well or something.
I have a sneaky suspicion we might be seeing this in Vegas. No confirmation, but I have a suspicion.
That would be awesome, but
wouldn't it?
I know that some of the people from Shield of Tomorrow, not the whole cast, but some of the people are going to be there this year. However, I think they're planning maybe for next year. They've kind of dropped a hint. Maybe next year they're going to do something big.
That would be awesome, because I know that the people from Critical Role, whom I love so much, do live versions of their show, and they're doing one this weekend, as a matter of fact, at Gen Con in Indiana, where they're, no lie, a full theater of 2,500 people are going to watch them do their game live on stage. It would be really fun if we could get Shield of Tomorrow people to do that at the Star Trek convention. Yep. It would be a blast, because their characters are great.
Yes, I'm in love with the Bajoran.
That's
Sage,
so awesome.
She's awesome. However, I have okay, so the game that we play,
yes.
The game that we play, we made the conscious choice to have the GM, Kush, play the role of captain to kind of sort of push the story along and keep things going. On Shield of Tomorrow,
he's the fleet admiral.
The GM plays the role of their engineer, which
does he?
Yeah, because I guess they're a man short. They needed one more person, but so
interesting.
So they I guess they might have had an engineer, but he ended up leaving the show before it started. But he's now doubling as the engineer, and based on our experiences, the engineer is actually one of the very more important roles.
I agree,
and not something that you can really just.
Yeah,
I don't want to say half-ass, do it, because as a GM, you're going to let your players, shine or do their thing more than you're going to let one of your NPCs do. Does that am I making sense? I don't know. Maybe I'm.
No, you're making perfect sense, because it's a critical
job.
And to have that person, you really want to have that person be interactive with you as that character, and you want them to make those roles as to successes or not, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea of having an engineer as part of the group, and that your game master is going to be not necessarily a playable character. And I always like that. I like that the game master doesn't necessarily have a playable character, but may be the impetus for multiple non-playable characters.
Well, obviously he does that as well.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but
because
maybe what they need to do is just get an additional cast member in there.
I agree. That's the only issue I have. And I mean, as the engineer for our game, one
I
with
love your character
with eccentricities that are I think very fun. I think it's a disservice to their game that they don't have an engineer. And speaking of our game, you weren't there this last episode, but I made a very interesting entrance, I will say.
I watched it.
Oh, you
and
did?
I saw it. Yeah, through the Jeffrey's tube. Yeah, I saw that.
I kicked open the panel and I crawled out and put the panel back.
I watched it. I do watch our show when I'm not on it. I call myself the Ashley Johnson of our individual Star Trek Adventure show. I built into my character the ability, story-wise, that I'm not always on the bridge. I am the head of the pilot's team. I'm the main pilot. But somebody else can always fill in, right? You've always got the ensign who can fill in. I'm just the commander of that team. And I have other things I need to do, and I can't release that because Mike is a player and he doesn't know the impetus or the background for that, mostly.
No.
So there you go.
Yeah, I have fun with our game, and so I hope everyone will check it out. But definitely check out Shield of Tomorrow, and maybe we should start a writing campaign. We need an engineer. We need a permanent engineer.
It's a very fun show. All right, what can we do? Move on. Oh, okay. So we're still talking about some unofficial productions. We did talk about Shield of Tomorrow. We did talk. Oh, now some additional news came out about Orville.
Well, there was a trailer that came out from SDCC that I thought was pretty cool, and then
funny as hell.
And then looks like one of the people who are involved in the production, they also worked on DS9. Apparently, they are really comparing Orville to Star Trek in a lot of different ways.
Well, okay, I can understand that. The look of it, the fact that he is like the world's biggest TNG fan, Seth MacFarlane is, that he's very close friends with pretty much the entire cast, that they all do voices on all of his productions. I mean, this is his love letter. I have no doubt this is his love letter to TNG. Whether or not somebody says, I think it's going to be more Star Trek than Star Trek,
that is not what the article pretty much says.
Oh, okay.
It was the person on it, who let's see, Penny Johnson. She was a DS9 veteran. She's working on this, but she says that. Let me get the article open. So just give me one moment.
Sure.
In regards to whether or not it's like other Star Trek shows, she says, Johnson Gerald says, that's it, their name. There are similarities. There are similarities in that we are uniform and we take on a very professional, militant type of physicality where they're in opposition, which is a lot like Star Trek. I thought it would be different from Star Trek, where you could get a little loose with the words, because I come from Larry Sanders days where we could be making stuff up. That's not so here. So it's true to Star Trek, where we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, because I believe Seth has written a composition in which each word, each connecting word, is part of some beautiful piece of music. We all pay attention to trying to be word perfect, and that is very much like Star Trek, because we don't want to upset the flow. It's let's say your plan is, I'm going to do it this way. And it's like, well, you just played my classical beat to a jazz tune. And we don't want to do that. We want to pay homage to the creators.
Okay. See? So I see it as that kind of that wonderful love letter to
exactly
to TNG. And it's going to be very tongue-in-cheek. It's going to be very crude because it is Seth MacFarlane, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't want this to be a show that isn't anything but a very crude and hilarious love letter to something that we love, a la Galaxy Quest. It's got to be funny or it's not going to work.
Well, the thing is, and it was alluded to in the quote that Mike just read, is that, and when it comes to comedy and parody, there's subtle lines that you have to do to make it work. Sometimes you can be very broad, and if you do a very broad comedy, you take things to the nth degree and it's ridiculous and it's absurd. There's also a comedy of parody and satire that you can do where you try to keep it grounded in a real situation, and what makes it funny is how the characters interact with it and how they behave in that. But if that world is absurd, sometimes it will lose that comic edge. But if you keep that world real and then put these absurd characters or strange situations into that, it can make it funnier.
I agree.
And if you make the parody too broad, then it actually becomes tiring after a while. But to keep something kind of real and then have somebody make a smart-ass remark can make that comedy more biting,
I think,
than something that's already crazy and wild, and then it gets lost in the chaff.
I think that now, of course, I have no insider knowledge, although I am friends with a couple of people working on the special effects and whatnot. But anyways, what I believe they are doing is the former of what you described, where it's grounded on this on something that is real. In fact, to the fact that everything based on this quote, everything is precisely written, meaning that he has established this certain rules for this universe, and it is the absurdity of the characters and some of the situations, but the universe itself is something that is very real, if that makes sense. But I'm just agreeing with what Alan said.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come off well, but
and oddly enough, from the article, it also sounds to me like Seth MacFarlane knows that in order for it to get that reality basis, so the comedy works even more, is that he has to do what the writers in Star Trek did, and that was you have to have a consistency of language with regards to what's going on in your environment. You can't, he's not going to be calling it warp drive, right? He's going to be calling it something else, but he has to call it that consistently
every time.
So he understands that there is a setting and a language that will keep everybody grounded in order for the comedy to play even more. So I'm really looking forward to the Orville. I think it's going to be a fantastic show, or at least from what we can tell, not unlike Discovery. I mean, we're going to give it, that's what I'm so excited about. We're going to get two different products, you guys, and it's all going to be just so much fun to watch the drama and the comedy unfold on two different sides of our loves.
Yep.
What did we get a note? Oh, we did. We got a note. My doggy needed to go, so Cozier had to run. All right, so the Infinity Box. Oh, okay. Now we're moving on to gaming news because we only have a little bit left. Actually, no. Let's go on to book news. Book news. We do have some book news, which is great. So, let's start off with Boldly Go Volume 1: Travels Beyond the Movies. Da, da, da.
Yeah. So essentially, what that is the IDW comic book series Boldly Go. I think they're like up to issue 10 currently.
Yeah.
Well, they've released their first volume, so they've taken the first few stories and bound them together. So you can, if you missed the initial releases, you can now get caught up through Star Trek Boldly Go Volume 1.
Great. It's Star Trek Online. Their T6 Sona Intel Battlecruiser giveaway happened, and it's my understanding that
I won one.
You won one. Congratulations!
Yes. Thank you.
I
wasn't gonna rub it in or nothing.
I know, but it's so cool. As a matter of fact, what was the ship that came out before this? I can't remember.
I wouldn't even know. I have not been in gaming.
I ended up getting one of those in a lockbox, and I still haven't unopened it. So if anybody wants one, give me a buzz. I might sell it to you. Because Beth she's just never gonna leave. She's never gonna leave her not until something better comes along. She's gonna stay in her what do you call them? The escort carrier. Damn, I love that thing.
There is a benefit to opening the ship, and that's to be able to get the ship for the Admiralty system.
Yeah, but I stopped playing the Admiralty system.
Oh.
I was like, I hit max and okay, I'm done. All right, just whatever.
When I was playing Stowe, I mean, that's one thing I'd love to do. It was fun.
Well, it's an easy thing to do, and you can jump in, get around. Yeah, it's fun. Then again, we talked a little bit about Star Trek Online's wonderful kind of cross-marketing campaign with Geek and Sundry's Star Trek Adventures show, and also the new featured episode, which I need to talk to you about because I got to play it this week. Finally.
Oh, right on.
Got back into the game. And this is the wonderful new featured episode called Brushfire.
Is that the one with the Martok?
It is the one with both Tony Todd and with J.G. Hertzler.
Nice.
Nice.
That is definitely one of the reasons why I would want to come back.
And I'll tell you, even if it's just to play the featured episode, might do it, because this is again another one of those beautifully created, beautifully drafted, and actually very well written episodes where I was like, how are they going to bring Martok back? Because Martok, and when you first play Star Trek Online, Martok is dead.
Yeah, we're led to believe.
You're led to believe that Jim Pock killed him.
Although it was closed door, so it was shady. It's always been shady thing. It's
always been shady that nobody witnessed his death. And that Jim Pock came out of the room kind of thing and said he's dead, and now I'm the new Chancellor. Yeah. And Jim Pock was kind of a dick, and although he kind of lightened up towards the end, and I don't know, it was just very weird. So to find a very absolutely believable way to bring Martok back, and not only is Martok back, but without giving away too many spoilers, it's up to you and the General Rodek, who is played by Tony Todd.
That's Worf's brother, by the way, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't know that. Remember?
Well, I haven't played Stowe in a while, so
no.
I don't know that he
in
does
DS9.
not know that. Yes,
in DS9, they wipe his memory, right?
Yes, I'm aware of the DS9 stuff, but I don't know his what has happened to him in Star Trek Online.
Right.
So for all I know, he could have gotten his memory back.
He did not.
Okay.
He does not know that he is Worf's brother in this.
Okay.
So that's what makes it so much fun, right?
Because you know something that he doesn't.
You as a player know something, but you as a character do not.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you know of him is that he's General Rodek.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of you, your crew and his crew, are going to go break Martok out of a Zenkethi prison.
Interesting.
It is so much fun. Had a ball. The voice acting was fantastic. The way that the character, it's great. When Star Trek comes out with a featured episode, Star Trek Online comes out with a featured episode, I always seem to have a really great time. And they did. In this one, they knocked it out of the park. The actors knocked it out of the park. And I am very much looking forward to making sure that both Tony Todd and J.G. Hertzler are seen again in future episodes. It's fantastic. Have fun, get in there, play it. Even if you're like me and you're not like a hoarder and you get a really nice batleth out of it.
Cool.
And that's kind of where I stopped. I mean, I don't need to, I'm still playing on shit from 2 years ago. All of my gear is still there. I got through the episode. I only died twice. And it wasn't because, my God, the big Zenkethi boss was a fucking bastard. But, so he killed me twice. But I got through it. And it was fun. So do it. Go watch it. Go play it. And get into game. And let's see. Star Trek Timelines. Big news from Star Trek Timelines. And congratulations to them. They are making the leap from just mobile devices into Steam.
Yep. So you can now play on your PC.
It's a big, big thing. So congratulations to them. Real quick on technology news.
Well, real quick before we go there, I mean, I'm going to take a quick detour into the land of Lego.
Oh, I did see that. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so Patrick Stewart, he is actually voicing the role of Kang the Conqueror in the all-new Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. So they've released a trailer with Stewart as the role of Kang, and I just absolutely loved it. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, that's awesome though. Very, very cool. And what's going on with Big Dude, Little Dude, real quick?
Well, the boys, they haven't been over in a while, so we haven't done anything new. I think episode 5 should be coming out, and then we've got a couple. We have then after that, it should be the house tournament. Should be after that. So
very cool.
Kind of excited for everyone to see that, because that introduces Dudette to everyone, and she just stomps us somehow. We don't know. We still don't know how, but she stomps us. So yeah. Got to check it out.
Very cool. And real quick, before I want to get to some convention news, and but there is some product news. Again, all of these links will be in our show notes at the when it gets posted. And when it gets posted, you just be patient there, mister, okay? When it gets edited and posted, and when it gets written, it takes a day or two. So please be patient with that. Finally, in the product news, there is some great t-shirts that have come out. I'm really looking forward to what t-shirts are released over at the convention, because they're always different. There's convention specific t-shirts, but also Eagle Moss has some interesting news. They have released now the Hirogen Hunter warship model, as well as the Negvar.
Yeah, basically, they're adding these items to their store, so you can actually purchase them separate from the subscription. Yeah,
but I'm going to put a link into the chat room, because Ben Robinson, copy link to this tweet.
Is this in regards to the Enterprise E?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
We do not know. Ben Robinson who is the director, really, at Eagle Moss, tweeted today that he's on his way to Vegas for the convention. It's been a while since we were here. As a matter of fact, they have not been back to the Creation Convention since the series was launched. And then he said, I have an announcement.
Interesting.
No, we don't know what it is, so we'll find out. It is nice to hear that. And now we're going to jump into convention news, because there's lots of it. They're up to 120? 120 guests
Yeah,
now
120.
for Star Trek Creation Convention. I'm very pleased to say that a lot of those are authors. For the first time since Alan and I have been going to the Star Trek, or anybody, even G&T, anybody's been going to the Creation, they really haven't invited or promoted any of the Star Trek book writers. So it's really great to see that Dayton Ward will be there. David Mack will be there. Kevin Dillmore will be there. Ron Perlman will be there. And by the way, it's also important to know
Kirsten Beyer will also be there.
Kirsten Beyer will be there. And she's going to be doing the Star Trek Discovery panel on Wednesday. They're kicking this off. They're starting off. I'm going to miss that panel because we don't get in until Thursday night. But I'm sure that you guys will be more than filled up with news. Pay attention to our friends over at Trek Geeks, as well as treknews.com or treknews.net, and trekmovie.com. They will fill you in on what's going on with the Discovery stuff, as will Roddenberry and Priority One, which is now part of the Roddenberry family. They'll all be at the Roddenberry booth, which is very, very exciting. La 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 la. All right. For those of you who are going to Star Trek Las Vegas and the regular family that you are, when the convention moved from the Hilton over to the Rio, there has always been like the place that everybody kind of hung out at, even though it was far too small for our group and we would spill out into the casino. The Masquerade Bar unfortunately suffered a plumbing issue yesterday, and looks like that at least for the first few days of the convention that the Masquerade Bar will still be closed because they had to jackhammer into the foundation and to access the pipe that broke. So the word on the street is everybody is going to pretty much split up, and they'll either meet at the Shutters Bar, which is the one in the middle. It's, again, far too small for our group, and I have a feeling most people will end up either at the I Bar or back at Quark's Bar, which is in the convention area itself. But it's a big reminder as everybody heads to Las Vegas and they're saying, okay, we'll meet at Quark's Bar, which is the one in the convention area. Don't forget, they don't take credit cards. Bring your cash. If you want to buy drinks, you're going to have to do it with cash. So there's no ATM, and those ATMs empty out so fucking fast that you just pre-plan. Okay, kids? There you go. Oh, the
good
convention.
safety tip for your drinking needs.
Right. Well, as I tweeted yesterday, because trust me, when they posted pictures of the closed bar, Twitter we all panicked, right?
Kind of erupted, didn't it?
It did kind of erupt, and which I thought was really damn funny because it's such a Star Trek fan thing to do. Is, everybody was focused on Star Trek Discovery and nitpicking on this, and the Klingons look different and blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, the bar's closed. And it was like the one thing that drew both sides of the issue together was, fuck Discovery, the bar's closed.
It unified the fanship like nothing else could. Let's just face it, liquor. It is the unifying force of the universe.
It was hilarious. It really was. Oh, too very funny. The full schedule for Star Trek Las Vegas convention is now available, which is 5 days faster than they normally have it.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh my God, too crazy. So you can check it out. Lots of really fantastic panels. I also heard that in the vendors room, not only is Eagle Moss going to be there and back again in a big way, but that Hallmark is going to be there for the first time. So that is fantastic news, and we'll see Miss Kevin Domore and Dayton Ward over there, which I think is great. There is a lot of really great. I'm going to just access it real quick. All right. See, now the problem is that I have to hit my push to talk, and I want to scroll through the webpage, but I can't do that with it. It's just because it just expands my webpage. The regulars will be there: William Shatner, Kate Mulgrew, Sir Patrick Stewart, Nichelle Nichols, Walter Koenig, and George Takei. But one of the other headliners, again, we talked briefly about a couple of weeks ago, is that Dr. Mae Jameson will also be there, and she will have her own panel. She's an engineer and a physician, as well as a NASA astronaut, and was also briefly a transporter engineer in Star Trek Next Generation. It was very cool to see that they brought her in for the 30th anniversary of the Next Gen, which sounds like it's going to be a very cool thing. The almost the entire cast, Will Wheaton does not attend creation events from TNG, will be there. They're having their own separate panel, I believe, which does it still require, I think they're sold out, or does it still require a separate ticket?
If I believe if you have an assigned seat, you can use that, but I think the because it's in the evening, it's something that you can just buy a ticket for separately.
Okay.
If you don't already have a ticket to the convention, I believe.
Right. Okay, cool.
So this panel is being presented outside of the normal convention setup, where it's at an odd time and it actually has a separate mission.
From what I understand, and I haven't looked into it very deeply.
I'll look at it real quick.
But from what I understand, yes, it was in the evening, after hours. They're treating it as something separate from the regular convention stuff, and yeah.
I have to say, I think that's fucked.
It was controversial,
I really
and
do.
they ended up changing it because at first it was completely separate.
Yeah.
If you had, regardless if you had a ticket to the convention, you had to buy a separate one to attend this particular panel.
Yeah. See, the problem I have with that is I understand that there's a lot of peripheral offerings that are given, and you get admission to those peripheral offerings when you buy an upgraded ticket, whatever they call it, captain's table, chair, whatever, whatever. And those are usually things like receptions or performances or things like that. I get that. But you go to a Star Trek convention to see panels and see the celebrities and everything, and that's always been the way it is. And if they start a trend where, oh, your admission gets you here, but if you really want to see what we're advertising to draw you here, you have to pay extra, I think that's a really fucked up and thing. And if that's a trend that creation goes with, they got to be very
they did
careful.
backtrack on that.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The people.
I believe it's only gold and up. So if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I could be wrong. Terry may have.
I'm looking. I'm trying to get in there without. The problem is I can't talk and scroll. So
yeah. So you go ahead and read. But I believe it's gold and silver, or just gold, that gets the free pass to that event. Everyone else would have to pay extra.
Yeah, but see, here's my problem. The conventions have always been, we have these panels and everything, and maybe in their advertising they're saying, hey, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of TNG, and come to our convention. And then to have a premium added on for that thing that they are advertising as one of their big draws for the year, to me is a bit of a bait and switch. It's like saying, oh, look at this shiny thing, come to us. And now that you're here, that shiny thing's going to cost you a little bit more. And I'm sorry, I do have a major problem with that. And again, like you said, they've backtracked a little bit, probably because they got the same reaction from a lot of
yeah.
people that I'm giving right now.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that's to me that's cheap, and that's chintzy, and that's cheating, and so any other thing I can come up with alliteration that matches that.
But
I just
they've made it now. They made it, I think, one of the perks for having one of the upper level passes. But yeah, you're right.
But that's still a problem. That is still a problem, because the panels have always been the heart and soul of what these things are. And so now it's like, because now what's the next thing? You're going to be a la carting all the panels. Well, I'm going to pick this and this and this and this. Okay, that'll be $345. But you can't go to anything else.
I think this was a separate panel from. There was going to be a TNG panel during the con, but this was with the entire crew, including Patrick Stewart. Which was the reason why it was after hours.
Okay, so here it is, the official 30th anniversary reunion of the Star Trek The Next Generation. It's moderated by Terry Farrell. It starts at 6 p.m. in the main theater, and TNG celebration is complimentary for gold, captain's chair, and copper patrons, so the reserve seating personnel. And they will be permitted to keep their reserved seats for the event. The TNG celebration will end promptly in time for the captain's chair folks to enjoy their Voodoo Lounge party upstairs at the Voodoo Lounge. Tickets for general admission seating are $30.
Well, okay. Now, are you saying that they're still going to have a 30th anniversary TNG kind of thing?
I do not see
the main
that
part of it
here. Hold on.
That might be.
And again, this is where I have a problem.
I believe so, but let me. We'll have to.
I'm going through the schedule now, and I'm not seeing one.
Okay, I thought I had heard that there was going to be one, but it was a partial cast reunion, I think. But
so now you're making me pay twice for something that would normally be just a part of a con, And again, I understand they have these other side peripheral performances, like we've seen things like where a few of the actors do like Shakespeare, or we've seen Jeffrey Combs do his Edgar Allan Poe thing, and I understand those are special performances that we are seeing. But you're going to charge me extra to go to a panel of the 30th anniversary. I think that is creation trying to see what they can get away with, and if they get a big enough draw on it, they're going to start doing it. And I have a real problem with that. I've already paid a pretty big price for admission, even on my general admission ticket. It's not cheap, and now you're going to start making me a la carte other elements of it. And again, I understand there's been these other performances and stuff, but we're talking about a panel now, right?
Yeah,
about a freaking panel.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And there is no other panel that it features the crew. I looked through the entire schedule, and there's nothing there. So if you want to see the group together, you have to pay $30 if you have general admission seating.
Yeah, I think that's creation being assholes.
Damn.
Yep. It's pretty fucked up. But that's the way it's going to be.
Well, and I understand. But you know what? That might be to their detriment in the long run.
We'll see. I mean, again, I don't know. I really don't know, because, hey, we were lucky that we got individual general admission day passes.
I understand.
I wasn't sure that was going to be able to happen. But yeah, it's kind of frustrating that we would have to think about paying an extra $30 to go see the one panel that really the entire convention was supposed to be focused on.
And I guess that's my point. That is a big draw and a big thing they're advertising for the convention. And now to say, and on top of that, you're going to have to pay even more to do that one thing that they're using as their big draw. It smells to me. It stinks.
Well, let's face it, which is so backwards, right? Why? And again, for everybody who wants to be or wants to hear what's going on, G&T will not have a booth this year in the vendors room. not because we didn't want to, but because Creation simply just didn't return a phone call. I was tired of their lack of customer service when it comes to their vendors' booths. And let me tell you, there's this idea out there that vendors and having a vendor's booth is somehow an inexpensive venture, which is not the case. Most people who are in a vendor's room are vendors, meaning they have something to physically sell.
They can recoup
their costs. But there are those of us, namely the podcasters, who want to advertise and to connect with our listeners on a personal basis, who do not make any money, zero. So it's all an outlay of cash to have a booth. A single booth at the Star Trek convention is $1,500. A single table is $650. So if you're not selling anything, you're laying out money. For the past few years, G&T Show, through my wonderful husband and I, have always used our own money to buy a double wide booth. So that's $3,000.
And I've always appreciated
I know you have, and it's been awesome.
No, it's great. It's great when we do the booth. I love having the booth. I love having our little hobby here being able to be advertised out there, and we've had some fun with it, and we've made some great connections, and it's done good for the profile of the show and everything like that.
It's been a blast.
So it's been fun. Don't get us wrong.
No, this is something we wanted to do. Yeah,
we like doing it. And I think we would have even considered doing it this year, but Creation blew us off.
They just blew us off.
They don't care. But they don't care about those things because, again, they don't, they probably see, oh, well, this little podcast wants to do something. What's in it for us? Other than the little money they could get for that. But, they're trying to sell to vendors who will sell stuff, but they're also trying to, let's face it, there's an uptick of performers who are now getting tables and booths to do their signatures, so they get away from
signatures, for which I understand Creation takes a bite of. So when one of your actors sells an autograph, Creation gets a portion of that.
My understanding is that that's true when Creation is running that part of it. But if the performer has a table in the booth, they get to keep all the proceeds. It's theirs.
Well,
right?
They also have the extra benefit of selling the stuff that selling stuff for people to autograph, right? Doesn't Creation run a lot of the photos?
Well, they do have it. Yeah.
Here's
the thing. Also, it's a very good tip. If you've never been to Star Trek Las Vegas before, this is big, big, big. And trust me when I say you will need to hear this. If you have purchased an autograph through Creation to go see whoever it is, whether it's, whatever actor it is that you are going, or even a not photo op, but just something, an autograph. So say you bought a very expensive autograph with Sir Patrick Stewart, which I think is $150. And you are more experienced in going to other conventions where you go up to an autograph table and sitting in front of the actor is a selection of 8x10s and glossies that you can pick from which they can sign. You will see that in the vendor's room at Star Trek Las Vegas. However, if you've purchased an autograph through Creation, the actor will not have photos for you to pick from. You
have to bring your item.
Bring your item with you. So if there's something you want to have them sign, you have to bring your own photo to have them sign it, because there's nothing there. This is a grinder thing. There's probably going to be, no lie, 1,500 people standing in line waiting for Sir Patrick Stewart to sign. So they don't have anything in front of them. You have to have whatever it is that you want signed ready to go, and you're going to throw it in front of that person. The person's going to sign it and you're going to move on. There's no interaction. There's no talking. There's probably not even eye contact.
Right. But, and then the other thing too is Creation will be more than happy to sell you something to have signed in the vendor's room. So they're that's a revenue generator for them and such. So
Yeah. So
But
it is very important that you don't, because it happened to me. I didn't realize this what it was the first time I went to a creation event. I had purchased an autograph and I got all the way up there and I was like, what do you mean you have to bring something? Why, what? And so I had to run into the vendor's room and buy a photograph for $6. So my $30 autograph ended up costing $36. So it was a hard lesson to learn because I lost my space in line, which sucked. And it took me 4 hours to get a $30 autograph. It was crazy. Be that as it may, it's probably the number one thing I will always advise somebody who's going to the Star Trek convention is, one, if you want, bring your own stuff to have it signed. And that also goes for the people in the vendor's room. If there's somebody in the vendor's room, and there's a lot of people in the vendor's room, even though they have their own photos and stuff like that, they're absolutely more than willing to sign something that you bring. One of the exceptions, however, is going to be scripts. Most people will not sign scripts. And the reason why is because they can't verify that it's an authorized copy of a script. They won't sign, a lot of them won't sign original artwork. And the reason is, of course, there's no way that they can control where that artwork was made and whether or not that artist will end up making money selling that piece of art, and especially if it's unlicensed. However, if you bring in a licensed poster or something that you purchased from another one of the licensed vendors, they're usually very, very willing to sign those as well. So that's my advice with regards to autographs.
There you go.
Okay. Mike?
I just want to say I will miss seeing everybody. I will not be attending Vegas, so I will miss everybody.
Well, we will miss you too, and we hope that your mom was doing better.
Yep.
Cool. And Alan and I will be there. We do not get in until Thursday afternoon, so just in time for karaoke on Thursday night, and we'll see you there. I will bring, I'll bring my recording gear, my little portable recorder, and Alan's got the camera. So we will post what we can, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at SundayGNT. You can follow me directly as well at Terry Lynn S. I think that's where most of my tweets will come from, you guys. It's hard for me to tweet from my phone on the GNT account. So please follow me personally at Terry Lynn S, TerryLynns. I will tweet what I can when I can, and follow up with you. And you are more than welcome to tweet back at me and ask me questions and whatever. And I hope I get to say hi to you too, Johnny Snowball. It'll be fun. And we'll be roaming around. So we're fans this time, kind of covering it for GNT, but not on an official basis. Steve, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, no booth this year, but we will be there and we will be walking around. It just won't be as official as we've been in the past few years.
Yeah. And, but it'll be kind of nice because I haven't been able to go to a panel in 5 years. So really, because I've been in the vendor's room. So it'll be really fun to kind of reconnect with everybody, and also to go. I'm celebrating. TNG is my show. I'm really excited about seeing the stuff that's coming out. I'm really excited about the Discovery stuff. I might even fork out the $30. I don't know. Maybe I'll just drink. We'll see. Steve, do you have any announcements on your side of things with Tribbles and everything?
Not really. I've been so busy with work.
Yeah.
We've had quite a lot of missed episodes recently, including last night. So, still trying to get time to actually do the things that I like.
But we have voicemail, don't we?
We do have a voicemail from Ross.
Oh, okay. From Live, Love, Play?
Yeah.
Sweet. Go for it.
Hey guys, Ross here from Live, Love, Play with a new content update. On iLiveLovePlay.com, you'll find the triumphant return of Super Geeks Podcast. We've resurrected the show to talk about Star Trek Discovery trailer and Jodie Whittaker's new Doctor. I've rebranded my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/live live_love_play in honor of my first anniversary of streaming. Now I just need a few more regular viewers in order to achieve affiliate status with Twitch, the first step towards Twitch partnership. I live stream a different game every Monday and Thursday at 3 and Saturday at 5 Central. I podcast every day. I don't live stream from my ever-growing library of past broadcasts and uploads, including episodes of Gods of Yukon, Getting Lost in Space, and the Lego Adventures of Big Dude and Little Dude. I remind you guys about my schedule every week, so no excuses. Gods of Yukon Episode 8, Fate, is live for my patrons on Patreon. If you want to watch the new episode first, pledge today. Getting Lost in Space Episode 1 and 2 are available to the public on Twitch, VidMe, and Mixcloud, with a new episode coming soon. If you want to watch the next episode first, pledge on Patreon today. Look me up and follow me on social media and never miss a post. Thank you for listening. And a special thank you to the host of the GNT show for your patronage, patience, and support, and occasional shit-talking jab. Makes things interesting.
We love you.
This is Ross saying thanks again, and until next time, do something new, enjoy your interests, and have a little fun every day.
Ah, he changed it on me.
What did he change?
At the very end, it's always, and to remember to live, to love, and to play every day. So I did it for him. I did it for him. Any other announcements, Mikey?
Not that I can think of. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, next week, Kojiro and I will be in Las Vegas, so we won't be participating in any show. If Nick and Mike decide to have one, maybe
it depends on whether or not Nick's
computer
is working.
Right. So pay attention to our Twitter and to our Facebook page, and we will let you know whether or not we're going to be able to have a live show next week. If not, then we will follow up with you. Oh my gosh, in August, for episode 300?
No, 290 is the next one.
Oh God, I freaked out for a moment there. So 289 is what today is. Okay, yes. I get it. Yes. And that's kind of it. Until the next time, I'm Terry Lynn. Thanks for listening, and remember to live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Goodbye, everyone. GNT 289.
Goodbye.
Music for the GNT show is provided by 5-Year Mission, Enterprise Blues Band, Warp 11, Andrew Allen, and Greth Thor. The GNT show is a BLB production.
Move ahead, walk back to 10. Put a mini skirt on my yo man. Represent the human race. And we make space a happy place. To boldly go where no man's gone before. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G community. Gonna travel to new worlds. Beam on down and meet some green girls. Gonna see what we can see. A fancy free galaxy. To boldly go where no man's gone before. I think I sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A zero-G community. Come and take a tour with me.
Hey, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.